closed. Amen. I, Christopher Robert Whittle, firmly embrace and accept all and everything that has been defined, affirmed, and declared by the unerring magisterium of the Church, especially those chief doctrines which are directly opposed to the errors of this time. And first, I profess that God, the beginning and end of all things, can certainly be known and thus be demonstrated for the natural reason of by all things that are made, that is, the visible works of creation, and the cause by the effects. Secondly, I admit and recognize the eternal arguments of revelation, that is, divine facts, and especially miracles and prophecies, that all certain signs of divine origin of the Christian religion, and I hold that these same arguments have been especially accommodated to the intelligence of all ages of men, even of these times. Thirdly, likewise, with a firm faith, I believe that the Church, the guardian and mistress of the revealed, was instituted proximately and directly by the true and historical Christ himself, while he sojourned among us, that the same was built upon Peter, the chief of the apostolic hierarchy, and his successors until the end of time. Fourthly, I accept and sincerely the doctrine of faith transmitted from the apostles through the Orthodox Fathers, always in the same sense interpretation that even had to us, so I reject the heretical invention of the evolution of dogmas, passing from one meaning to another, different from what the Church first had, and likewise I reject all error whereby a philosophic fiction is substituted for a divine deposit given to the other spouse of Christ, which will be guided faithfully by her, or a creation of the human conscience formed gradually by the efforts of men to be perfected by the indefinite progress in the future. Fifthly, I hold most certainly and profess sincerely that the faith is not a blind religious feeling bursting forth from the recesses of the subconsciousness, unformed morally under the pressure of the heart and the impulse of a will, but the true action of the intellect to the truth received extrinsiquely ex auditu, where we believe that what has been said, attested, and revealed by the personal God, our Creator and Lord, on the true account of the authority of God in the highest truth. I subject myself with reverence in which is proper, and I hide my whole soul in condemnations, declarations, and prescriptions which are contained in the encyclical letter Pascendi and the decree Lantim, especially those on what is the history of dogma. In the same manner, I disapprove of the error of those who affirm that the faith proposed by the Church can be in conflict with the history, and that Catholic dogmas, in sense in which they are now understood, cannot be reconciled with more authentic origins of Christian religion. I also condemn and reject the opinion of those who say that the more a root Christian puts on a dual personality, one of the believer, other of the historian, which is I were permitted the historian to hold what is contradiction to the faith of the believer, or to establish the premises of which follows that dogmas are either false or doubtful, provided that they are not directly denied. I disapprove likewise that the mention of this studying, interpreting sacred scripture, which disregards the tradition of the Church, an analogy of the faith, and the norms of the Apostolic See, and adheres to the fictions of rationalists, and less freely than boldly adopts textual criticism as the only and supreme rule. Besides, I reject the opinion of those who hold the present in historical and theological disciplines the teacher or the writer on these subjects must first divest himself previously conceived opinion on the supernatural origin of the Catholic tradition, or on the aid promised by God for the perpetual preservation of the firmly revealed truth, that the writings of individual fathers be interpreted by the principles of science, setting all aside all divine authority, and by the freedom of judgment which any profane document is customarily investigated. Finally, in short, I profess to be utterly free of error according to the modernists that hold that there is nothing divine in sacred tradition, or what is far worse, admit this pantheistic sense, so that nothing remains in this bare and simple fact that me assimilated the facts of common history, namely of men by their industry and the skill, genius, and continuing substance throughout the ages, the school inaugurated by Christ and his disciples, so that I retain most firmly the faith and fathers, and shall it return until the final breath of time, regardingly by the certain gift of truth, which is and will always be in the succession of the episcopacy of the apostles, so that which may seem better, more fitting according to each one's period of culture, may be held, but so that the absolute and immutable truth preached by the apostles from the beginning may never be believed otherwise, may never be understood otherwise. All these things I promise that I shall faithfully, entirely, and sincerely keep and inviolably watch over the devastating from them in the words while entering a teaching or any other pursuit. So I promise, so I swear, so help me God in this holy gospel.